Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our weekly TLC Live. I am Andrea Gomez, and today I am home alone, but we're going to connect thanks to our virtual system. We're going to connect with Orlando Sanchez, who is up in Dallas, around Dallas area. Mr. Orlando, why you leave me alone today?
Well, because somebody's got to do the hard work of getting the word and, introducing the PAC and our nonprofit to statewide leaders. So I'm up I've made my way up 45 and I went and visited with the Madison County chairman of the Republican Party. And Kevin Council had a great visit yesterday. This morning I was at the Dallas County Republican Party headquarters. And today I'm speaking to the Lincoln the group here in McKinney, which is Collin County, Texas. And then I will make my way back home tonight.
Very good. So we're going to see you next week, or you're going to keep traveling?
I'm actually going to keep traveling. My next destination is going to be down to South Texas. So hopefully, our trusty staff will arrange meetings down in Harlingen and Nueces County and other counties along the way. So there's a lot of work to do. It's a big state, Andrea, when you're driving it.
No, I know. Well, good luck with everything that you're doing over there, and let's spread the word for the Texas Latino conservatives. And today we have a very, very special guest, Orlando. I don't know if I'm gonna pronounce it right, but in Spanish it's like the same. It's Brigadier General. Brigadier General Joe Ramirez Jr. He is a Houstonian, and he is a graduate from Texas A&M. We have an Aggie at home here connecting with us from College Station. Joe Ramirez, Brigadier. Did I pronounce it right in Spanish? But I don't know in English. How do you pronounce that in English?
It's pretty much the same. Brigadier General, Brigadier General Joe Ramirez. That's you did great, Andrea.
Okay, awesome. Well, welcome and thanks for your time. Thanks for being with us today and talking about not only your career but what is your goals and why you decide to be part of the Texas A&M, to be an Aggie. I was reading a lot of articles about you, and it's amazing your story. So welcome, Joe, and thanks for being with us.
It's my honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
And I should point out that Andrea calls you Joe, but I will be calling you General. As an old Air Force guy, I respect the chain of command. So you've earned your star, and I will be calling you General.
We've been talking a lot, Orlando. That's why now we're very familiar. We've been talking before.
That's fine. That's fine.
So, General Joe, so tell us about you, about your story. I mean, you're from Houston. You're native from Houston, and I was reading a lot of articles last year, and you become like headlines in a lot of articles in the news. So tell us about your story.
Well, I grew up in Houston. I grew up in the East Side, the area there known as Magnolia Park, right next to Second Ward, East Side, inner city Houston. Grew up there. My father is a military veteran himself, former prisoner of war. And when he retired from the military, he moved back to Houston. That was the same area he grew up. My mother grew up in a small town called Moulton, Texas, near Shiner. She quit school in the 8th grade and went to work on the farm. And then she moved to Houston when she got the opportunity, met my dad. They married, and they had 4 children. I was the oldest of the 4. Um, I grew up in the inner city, and there was a lot of temptations there to take a wrong turn, and my life probably could have turned out a whole lot differently. I was very, very lucky, and that my parents truly were focused on making all of their children successful, and teaching us a strong work ethic, and teaching us a love of God and a love of family and a love of country. And they also wanted me to be the first member of our family ever to go to college. And quite frankly, that wasn't my focus. I wasn't, I like a lot of my friends, I was going to join the military. Out of high school, I thought about joining the Marine Corps. And I happened to be in downtown Houston one day when the Corps of Cadets from Texas A&M was marching in. It's when A&M used to play Rice, the Corps of Cadets would march into downtown Houston. And I happened to be downtown Houston and saw the Corps cadets march in, and I saw that Corps, those cadets in their uniform come marching by, and I was just blown away. And I just said, okay, I don't know what that is, but I want to be a part of it. And so I told my high school counselor that I wanted to go to college, and he honestly did not believe me when I first told him. But I said, no, I really want to go to college, and I want to go to Texas A&M. And no kidding, what he told me that day was, Joe, Mexicans don't go to Texas A&M. Mexicans go to the University of Texas. And I wanted to go to A&M. I'd seen that Corps. I didn't know anything about A&M. I didn't even know where it was. But I said, no, I want to go to Texas A&M and be in the Corps Cadets. And I really wanted to be in the band because I played alto saxophone at the time. So I applied and did what I needed to do, got accepted, and came to A&M and was fortunate enough to join the band and be a part of that organization. Learned a lot from that experience, met a lot of great people. My counselor was right, because at the time there weren't a whole lot of Latinos here at Texas A&M University. There were very few of us, as a matter of fact. But I still had a great experience here at Texas A&M and learned a lot about leadership, self-discipline, honor, integrity, the kinds of lessons that would serve me well in the future. And to be honest, I did not plan on pursuing a military career. I wanted to be a physical therapist. And so my plan was to come to A&M, get my undergrad degree, apply to physical therapy school, and go to physical therapy school. As luck would have it, at the end of my sophomore year, the Army ROTC program called me in and said, we've got a 2-year Army ROTC scholarship. Would you be interested? And quite frankly, I needed the money. You know, my family were struggling to keep me in school, but they were going to do whatever it took to make sure that I graduated. And when I asked them, I said, well, what does it pay? They said it pays everything but room and board. And so I said, okay, I'll take it. You know, it helps my family out financially. And he told me then, he goes, well, you owe the Army 4 years of active duty upon graduation if you take this scholarship. And I said, that's okay, I'll do 4 years. And so at age 20, I signed to the dotted line and said I would take that 2-year scholarship, which automatically committed me to 4 years in the Army upon graduation. And at that time, I had no clue that decision was going to change my life forever. So I graduated in 1979, got commissioned the same day into the United States Army as a field artillery officer, and it went off to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for my officer basic training and changed my life. Instead of staying 4 years, I stayed 31, and have been all over the world, have seen things and done things that most people just read about in a book. I've been very, very lucky to have worked with some great leaders, some great non-commissioned officers, some great soldiers that taught me along the way about what right looked like. I learned a lot of very, very good lessons along the way. It was a good experience for me and for my family. And as luck would have it, I got selected for general officer, something that very few get selected for. And I was honored to be promoted to Brigadier General by, at that time, Lieutenant General Dave Petraeus. I was his deputy commander at the time. And my father, my mother died when I was a major, but my father, I was able to be there and pin on one of my stars. It was probably one of the proudest moments of my life. And again, I had a great career in the military and got an opportunity to come back to Texas A&M as the Commandant of Cadets. And I got the position and came back here in 2010. And I've been the Commandant of Cadets here at Texas A&M ever since. So I've been here about 10 years. So all total, wearing this uniform about 41 years now.
So, General, I know that you have had several, you've been assigned to several commands. One that was very interesting to me was the Central Command. Were you there during Iraqi freedom and enduring freedom? And most importantly, the question is, there's a lot of famous generals in the Army, of course, General Patton and Wainwright and on and on and on. But more recent famous generals were Norman Schwarzkopf. Did you have an opportunity to work with him over at Central Command during the Iraqi freedom campaign?
I did not. In fact, he was not the commander. By then, he had actually retired. He had been the commander of U.S. Central Command during the first Gulf War.
That's right.
So
You're right. And then it
you
was
know, when I became
Petraeus.
the
You're
deputy
right.
chief of staff there at Central Command, it was General John Abizaid, an incredible leader, incredible. Um, I learned a lot just by watching him and some of the other senior leaders in that command. Now, if you don't know about, these operational commands, these combatant commands, U.S. Central Command has a geographical area that covers basically the Middle East and the Central Asian states. So not only was Central Command overseeing the war in Iraq, it was also overseeing the war in Afghanistan, and also at that time oversaw the Horn of Africa. So that included Somalia, Egypt, Djibouti, Kenya, countries like that. So it had a lot of things going on in its operational area, and about 300,000 soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines deployed in that area of operation. So it was a very busy time during that time frame. I was there from 2003 to 2005, and got a chance to travel throughout that area of operations, to include Iraq and Afghanistan and several of the Central Asian states, the Horn of Africa. It was quite an experience to get a chance to do that, and also to see some of our military leaders at the highest levels and some of the strategic decisions they had to make. And more importantly, their interface throughout all these countries with both political and military leaders from those countries, and the diplomacy that goes into all of that. Because at that level, you're not just a military leader, you're also a statesman for our country. You're also a diplomat for our country. And it's not all about, guns and bullets. There's a lot of diplomacy that goes into that as well. And watching these leaders do things like that and how well they did it, I learned a lot about that throughout the experience.
One other question before I let Andrea jump in. General, as I told you, I went into the U.S. Air Force right after high school. The military has been good to me. When I came back to Houston before I launched my political career, I was able to benefit from the GI Bill, which paid for my tuition and my books at the University of Houston. And um, I think, speaking of the Corps Cadets, um, want to talk a little bit about um, what your impression is with respect to, because there's a lot of Latino kids that serve in the U.S. Armed Forces. I know that almost half of the U.S. Armed Forces are made up of minorities, which includes Asians, Hispanics, and African Americans, but a large percentage of those are Hispanic kids. But where we lack leadership within the U.S. Armed Forces is in the officer corps, whether it be Air Force or Army or the Navy, or the Marine Corps, and even to the Coast Guard. Um, is it important to reach out to young Latino kids and encourage them to think of a career as an officer in the U.S. Armed Forces and in the Army? And how does the Corps Cadet help foster that career?
Absolutely. It's incredibly important. I'll put it to you like this. Most of the time that I was serving in the U.S. Army as an officer, Latinos made up about 4% of the officer corps. 4%. You think about the size of the population that we make up in the United States. We were sorely underrepresented in the officer ranks, as you mentioned. Those numbers are not much better today, quite frankly. When I became a general at that time, of about 380 generals, because they'd increased the number because of the wars of general officers they allowed in the Army, there were three of us that were Hispanic: Ricardo Sanchez, Freddy Valenzuela, and myself. And I had known General Sanchez and General Valenzuela in previous assignments. Phenomenal leaders, phenomenal officers, and great role models. But to this day, we are still underrepresented in the officer ranks. And there is a concerted effort by our military to try to improve that. And here at Texas A&M University, part of my effort when I got here was to increase the diversity in the Corps. I wanted our Corps to look like our state and our nation, and to have representatives from across the spectrum of backgrounds in our Corps, because that's the world that our young people are going to face when they graduate. And so we've made a concerted effort. For example, our Hispanic population in the Corps sits at about 23 to 24% now. When I got here, it was 13. So now almost 1/4 of every cadet that's out there in the Corps of Cadets is Latino. And that's important. We still are sorely underrepresented in the African American community. Quite frankly, we still do not have the numbers that I think we need to have. We're still underrepresented in the Asian community as well, although we're sitting at about 4 to 5% in the Asian community in the Corps of Cadets. So we're working hard to try to increase that. It is important that we get underrepresented populations in leadership positions throughout the spectrum to the highest levels. We need that. We need that representation. But, it all begins with an education. And so when I go to high schools across Texas and I talk to high school, sophomores, juniors, and seniors about coming to A&M and joining the Corps, my message is threefold. The first one is stay in school and graduate. In a state where Latinos have a 40% dropout rate, please stay in school and graduate. Get your high school diploma. The second message is go to college. A college degree is going to open up so many doors for you if you will give it the opportunity. We need Latinos in college. Go to college. And then the third message is come to Texas A&M and see what we have to offer you, because we truly do have many opportunities for all populations here at Texas A&M University. Come take a look and see what we have to offer. Give us an opportunity. And so that's kind of my message when I talk to young people out there. As I go to all these high schools across Texas to recruit, it's more than just come join the Corps. It's, look, stay in school. Get your high school diploma, first and foremost. And then look at going to college to get that college degree, which, again, will open up all kinds of doors for you. One of the reasons why we have such great ROTC programs here at Texas A&M is because they know they can come here and they can recruit some of the underrepresented populations that they may not be able to find at other schools. And we take great pride in that. We have the largest Air Force ROTC detachment here at A&M. We have the largest Navy Marine ROTC detachment here at A&M. And we have the third largest Army ROTC detachment here at A&M. And we take great pride in that because we have about 2,400 cadets here in the Corps. We have a large pool of talent here that everybody's looking for, to include the military.
General, yeah, I was reading in my notes and articles that reporters been interviewing you, and exactly you were saying that you have three priorities for the Corps: improve academics, boost recruitment, and increase diversity. And that's very important. What is the plan that you have for the next years, knowing that in the next decade we're going to be the majority of the minority in this country, not only in Texas but in this country? What is the plan? What would you do different that it's been haven't done to accomplish your goals?
Yeah. Well, first off, that started from day one when I got here. All right. My goal, when we set our strategic plan, my goal was to increase diversity across the board in the Corps. And that was not just ethnicity, but also gender. I needed to get more females in the Corps too. For me to grow the population of the Corps, which at the time was my second priority, I needed to increase females as well. We were sitting at about 9% female. We're 17% female now. If I'm really going to grow the Corps overall numbers, I've got to recruit more females. But within that, I also wanted to recruit more Hispanics, more African Americans, more Asians, more international students. So we spend a lot of time on the road going to schools that are, across the board. I mean, they cover every background you can imagine. But I also make a concerted effort to go to cities like El Paso and down in the valley, as Orlando mentioned. I go to the valley every year on purpose to try to recruit underrepresented populations to come to A&M and be members of the Corps of Cadets. We have improved in every area with the exception of African Americans. We have not yet gotten the numbers that I would like to have. And if I looked at my next 10 years, my goal would be to try to get a healthy balance in the Corps that looks a lot more like our state. And I fully understand that, right now the Latino population in the state of Texas is sitting at about 40%, if not more. And as you look at the next 20 years, 25 years down the road, the Latino population is going to become the majority here in Texas. And we have got to address the education issue for the Hispanic population in this state if we're going to become the majority in this state. We have to address that. We can't allow 40% of our young people to drop out of high school every year. That's unacceptable in a state where we will soon become the majority. We've got to encourage our young people and show them the path to a college education and the opportunities that are inherent in that once you get here and once you get that degree. I am proud of the efforts we've made thus far. Our job is far from finished. We've got a lot more work to do. We continue to recruit. We continue to put the message out there about the young people that we've got in the Corps today and the impact they're having. And I'm hoping that over the next 10 to 15 to 20 years, we can increase the population of all of our underrepresented young people so that we can better reflect what our state and our nation look like.
One quick question, General. Explain to our viewers, if you are a student at the University, Texas A&M, and you want to join the Corps of Cadets, does that mean that you have to be in an ROTC program and commit to one of the branches of government? Or can you participate in the Corps of Cadets and not be an ROTC participant? I mean, a lot of people don't understand how that works.
Yeah, great question. Let me kind of answer that in two ways, okay? First off, every cadet that comes to the Corps joins an ROTC program for the first 2 years, okay? So they're in an Army ROTC, Navy Marine ROTC, or Air Force ROTC for the first 2 years. And most of those first 2 years are focused on leadership. They're focused on, getting these young people to understand leadership and a little bit about their service. Here's what the Army is all about. Here's what the Army looks like. Here's what the Navy looks like, the Marine Corps, the Air Force. That's what the first 2 years look like. After those first 2 years, if you choose not to pursue a commission, you are no longer an ROTC. You disenroll from ROTC, and we have a program developed. It's called the Hollingsworth Center for Ethical Leadership that's developed solely for those cadets who want to go into the public or private sector. And it's designed to teach, young people how to lead in corporate America and what that looks like and all the skill sets that go along with that. For those that are going to pursue a commission, they stay in ROTC and they pursue that commission. They go through, all the right classes and the summer training that they're going to have to take in order to prepare themselves to get commissioned as a second lieutenant or an ensign. So we have two paths basically after your sophomore year. You're either going to commission through the ROTCs or you're not going to commission and you're going to go into the Hollingsworth Center for Ethical Leadership and learn how to be a good leader out there in the public and private sector. What's important is you can be a member of the Corps of Cadets and you do not incur a military obligation. And we still have a hard time communicating that message, even though it's been that way since 1965. We have a hard time communicating the fact that, being a member of the Corps does not incur a military obligation. You can be a member of the Corps and not go in the military. And in fact, about 60% of our cadets do not commission. And I'll say that again, 60% of our cadets do not commission.
Gotcha. Thank you.
General, to me, I'm a mom of two kids. I'm a mom of two, and I'm an immigrant, and I came to this country when I was already 25 years old. And it's the case on many parents the same as me. And we don't know how to navigate the system. We don't know how things work. And it's any plan to work not only to educate our community. What I mean is like to educate the kids and to go to schools to try to pass the message to the kids. But how do we address the issue with all these parents, the immigrants, that many of them, they don't even speak English and they don't know how to navigate the system for them to encourage their kids?
Yeah, and I tell you, that is a tough challenge. Because when I speak to these high school groups, I also will attend the college fairs at night. And that is where I will get a chance to meet with a lot of the parents, many of whom do not speak English, many of whom are immigrants, many of whom are blue collar workers. Um, and I will tell you, culturally, we as a people, you know, we believe in a strong work ethic. And it's, everybody works, everybody supports the family. That's what we do. That's who we are. And that's kind of the mindset for a lot of the people that I talk to. The concern I've got is that a lot of them are so focused on, I want my son or daughter to graduate, and then I want them to go to work with me, or I want them to go to work here so that they can help support the family. Um, Many of them, it's a challenge to try to communicate to them that, listen, your son or daughter can do far more good for you, your family, for your community, for your state, for your nation, if they will go to college and graduate with a degree. That is it's a difficult challenge. I'll tell you quite frankly, in the Valley, in El Paso especially, I run into this all the time, where parents, especially for the young Latinas, they do not want to let their daughters leave home and come all the way to Texas A&M. You think we were on the other side of the moon sometimes to get a college degree. They want them to stay there. They want them to work. They want them to raise their families there. And it's a difficult challenge. It truly is, because we culturally, that's how we're wired. We have a strong work ethic. So a lot of our effort now, and I have Spanish speakers on my staff. My Spanish is probably about 3/4 acceptable. And we spend a lot of time talking to parents about the opportunities that we can provide for their sons and daughters, and how if they would encourage their sons and daughters, we could get them to come to college and also provide an opportunity for them to succeed in the future in ways that they never would have imagined. I remember, this was several years ago, I talked to a father down in the Valley, and his daughter had scored phenomenally high on the SAT. It was incredible. She, a brilliant young lady, and she wanted to go to college. She wanted to be an engineer. And her father looked at me and said, nope, she's not going to college. She's going to be the manager of the local Burger King in 2 years. She's going to be the manager. And, for him, that was it. She had made it because fresh out of high school, she was going to be a manager of a local Burger King. And it was a struggle to get him to understand, that compared to a college degree and what she could do as an engineer upon graduation, it was hard to get him to comprehend and understand, the difference in all of that. And that's a challenge. I'll tell you, quite frankly, I wish I could say I had an easy solution. I don't. It's a challenge.
Well, General, it's a solution that I think our state leadership can help with. I understand that. And you talked about the dropout rate in Texas public schools among Latinos. As you know, in Houston, because you're a former Houstonian, has one of the largest dropout rates, and we're the third largest school district in the United States. I think it's absolutely reprehensible that the state hasn't wrapped its arms around that. And when you talk about the need to educate not only the children about their college and career opportunities, but the parents, that is the responsibility of college counselors in the public education system. And I wholeheartedly agree that among the many needs in the Latino community, there is none as important as getting out to the parents to impart upon them the importance of, while a management position at a McDonald's or a Burger King may be a good career path, and a lot of those people do well, the possibilities are endless with a college degree. But as Andrea mentioned, my parents were both immigrants. They didn't know the first thing about how to tell us how to apply for financial aid, fill out the FAFSA forms, take the SAT, go talk to the college counselor, what was the differences in universities. All of those things is the responsibility of the public school to prepare those kids in junior and senior grades in high school and our secondary education system to make them be exposed to the vast opportunities that exist for them. a lot of these kids, as you mentioned, whether they're from El Paso or down in Harlingen or down in McAllen, Nueces County, they don't understand that even the private sector have vast numbers of scholarships for them. So really, I'm saying all this, General, so in the event that our state leadership that's in charge of public education is watching or listening, that it is absolutely imperative for the future of Texas that the state roll up its sleeves and do a better job informing parents and Latino kids, all kids, quite frankly. But we know the numbers in the Latino community are pretty poor, of educating them through the maze and the process of acquiring a higher education. So I'm glad that was pointed out, and I'm glad I got my message out.
No, I think it's important, and it, again, it's sometimes hard to get folks to understand the power behind a college education. It truly is, especially when, families are working hard just to make ends meet, and they need everybody working toward that end. I tell you, the first couple of years I was here, you would be surprised at how many of our Latino cadets that had great scholarships and would come into my office and say, I don't have any more money. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't have any more money? You've got all this scholarship money. What'd you do with it? They sent it home. I sent it home. My parents needed the money, so I sent my scholarship money. They literally would take their scholarship money and send it home to mom and dad because they needed the money. And again, there had to be an education about, okay, what you can and can't do with that money. And I understand. I fully understood, why they did it. And again, it's part of our culture. It's inherent in who we are and what we are. But that whole notion of getting people to understand the need to encourage our young people to go to college is it can't be overstated. Every time I go to a high school and I'm sitting in front of an audience of all these young Latino children out there, and I say, how many of you want to go to college? And all of them will raise their hands. It could be 300-400 of them. They'll all raise their hands. And I look at them and I say, well, that's great. It's great to see. But let me tell you the hard facts. Of 100 Latino children that start school today in the state of Texas in the first grade, by the time they get to ninth grade, 40 of them are no longer in school. 40 have already dropped out. And of those that make it to graduation, 24 will go on to college. And of those 24, 12 will graduate with a 4-year degree from a university somewhere in this great land of ours. So I said, statistically speaking, if there's 100 of you sitting here today that raised your hands, only 12 of you in this state are going to graduate with a 4-year degree. So all of you that raised your hands, statistically speaking, only 12 of you will graduate and have a degree. And I ask them, how many of you guys think those are good numbers? And of course, nobody does. They're appalling numbers. And oh, by the way, in HISD, the number's 8. It's not 12, it's 8. And those are not numbers that, we should be proud of. Those are numbers we ought to be working to improve every single day.
You're absolutely correct. I mean, as someone that's been involved in politics for over 25 years, it's the most heartbreaking thing, because a lot of conservatives, and I don't want to get too far into politics because that's not your, but a lot of Republicans will ask me, so what do we do? How do we improve our communication and outreach to the Hispanic community? Listen to the issues. It's not just me telling you. It's appalling that the state of Texas, which is in charge of public education, has statistics like General Ramirez has just talked about. The dropout rate, the lack of knowledge. I mean, these are all things that our state leadership can cure in the Latino community. And by the way, that's how you develop friends. And so, General, I wanted to thank you for your service. I wanted to thank you for your time and commitment this morning. We do have, our program is on Facebook Live, so I saw Mr.
And we have a question, Orlando.
Yeah, Mr. Pettis put up a comment that you were talking, you may not have read, but he thanked you for your service for our country. As I told you at the beginning of the program, I'm up in McKinney, Texas, which is Collin County, north of Dallas. And I've got to, as you guys can tell, this is the first time I've done Facebook Live in the car. But hey, the wonders of modern technology. But so I'm going to go in and talk to a bunch of good conservative voters and tell them about what our PAC does and what our nonprofit does. So I'm going to toss it over to the rest of the program to Andrea and let her ask questions that our viewers have been asking. But I wanted to say to you, General, thank you for your service. We're certainly proud of you as Houstonians. We're proud of you as Latinos that you are reached the rank of general in the United States Air Force, that you and as a young man risked your life and supervised thousands of young men and women in the armed forces risking their lives through different combat zones in the world. And I couldn't be any more proud of you. And if you ever have an opportunity to share more stories or don't hesitate to reach out to Texas Latino Conservatives. We'd be glad to give you the forum. And I look forward to meeting you someday, General. So hasta la vista y nos vemos pronto. Andrea, I'm out.
Orlando,
Nos vemos.
gracias y mucha suerte y que bueno, continúa con tu
Gracias,
labor allá.
Orlando. Que te vayas bien.
Gracias.
Ciao, Orlando. Okay, General, we have a question, and from our dear friend Maggie Jaramillo, she's watching us. She said, General Ramirez, I am a huge advocate of promoting education to Hispanics, especially higher education. Does your organization have any volunteer program that get everyday folks like me involved with encouraging students to finish high school and continue with college?
Um, my organization directly, no. Texas A&M does. In virtually every major city, and including down in the valley, the Office of Admissions has an office designed specifically to recruit and attract Latinos and African Americans to come to Texas A&M University. And those organizations are the ones where if you want to volunteer and help out, those are the ones that will go out and talk to the high schools about, finishing high school, going to college, coming to A&M, and seeing the opportunities that A&M has available. Our admissions office fully understands the need to get out and recruit underrepresented populations. That's one of the goals of Texas A&M as a whole. And these organizations that are throughout the state, they do great work in going out there and putting the word out, and then trying to recruit underrepresented populations, to include Latinos, to come to A&M and be a part of that. So, if she would let me know, where she's at, I'd be happy to send you, Andrea, some information on who she can connect with there to talk to about helping to volunteer to do just that.
Yes, please, General. Send me all the information, and I will post it on our Facebook page, and I will send it straight to Maggie. She's a very dear friend of us, and she's always supporting the PAC and supporting all these educational cause. I have a last question before we go off the air. As I told you, I'm an immigrant. I didn't went to college in this country. I don't know how to navigate, even though that my kids are now in high school. I have twins. They're 15 years old, and I always confuse when they say, I'm a junior or I'm a sophomore. I don't know all of those things, and many parents like me, they don't know all of those things. What we can tell our kids that they are in an age of a high school and they're trying to figure it out, where to go, where to study, how to apply, what they can start doing from now on high school to get a better chance to get in college or these universities like UT or A&M or high education. It doesn't matter if it's in Texas or wherever they dream to go.
Yeah, that's a great question, Andrea. And here's the first thing I would tell you. You need to start, if you truly are even thinking about going to college, you need to start making your grades in the 9th grade, your freshman year, because the grades that will come in on your transcripts are your 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade classes. Okay, because you can start applying to college right after your junior year. The summer of your junior year is when you can start. Between your junior and senior years, when you can start applying to go to a school in Texas. So your freshman, sophomore, junior years are when you need to be making those grades, good grades, that make you competitive to get into college. That's the first thing I would offer. The second thing I would tell you is, again, even if you're thinking about it, take the SAT and ACT early and often. Okay? Take it early and take it often. When it's offered, take it. And I say take it early and often because a lot of kids will take that test and not like their score. You don't like your score, take it again. You don't like that score, take it again. Because the state of Texas will take the highest score. Whatever your highest score is what the state of Texas will take. And then the third thing I would offer is apply for financial aid. When you go to apply for college, there's a box in there asking if you wish to apply for financial aid. Check that box and apply for financial aid because that covers scholarships, that covers grants, that covers loans. It covers a lot of territory when it comes to financial aid. So those are three things that I tell kids right up front is, even if you're thinking about college and you're not really sure, number one, start making your grades early. 9th, 10th, 11th grade, make your grades early. And oh, by the way, if you were in the top 10% of your class when you apply to go to college, in the state of Texas, you are an automatic admit to a state school. So, for example, the two schools you mentioned, Andrea, University of Texas and Texas A&M, both state schools, if you are top 10% of your class, that's an automatic admit. You still have to take the SAT or ACT, but you're an automatic admit in the state of Texas, which means you are automatically admitted to those schools among the other state schools, the great state schools we've got in this state. So, do well in school your 9th, 10th, 11th grade years. Take the SAT and ACT early and often. All right? Take it early and take it often. Don't wait till the last test is offered your junior year and then you've got whatever you get is what you get. You don't have any other opportunity to take it again. And then again, apply for financial aid because there's a lot of financial aid out there. And if you're eligible for it, there's opportunities for you to get some, if not all of your school paid for while you're going. So those are three things I offer right off the top of the day.
And also, it's a lot of opportunities to get a scholarship also when you are a minority. It's like when you are a Latino and also if you are a woman, right?
Exactly. There are many, many opportunities. And that's another thing. A lot of scholarship money goes unused because a lot of kids don't want to take the time to apply for it. There's a lot of opportunities there. Look into all the scholarships that are available, and for example, Orlando talked about, being a veteran. If you're a child or a grandchild of a veteran, there's the Hazelwood Act here in Texas where you can benefit from a relative's military service. Look into that. There are all kinds of scholarships and grants out there that if you just look into it and apply for them, it's amazing how much of your college tuition is paid for right off the top. And oh, by the way, selfishly, I'll also say, if you're even considering a military career or thinking about the military, look at the ROTC scholarships as well. They are very, very good scholarships that cover everything but room and board. I mean, literally, tuition, books, fees, pay for your supplies, and oh, by the way, pay a monthly stipend. They pay for everything except room and board. So there's another opportunity if you're looking for, and especially if you are a minority. Again, the military is looking to increase its among its ranks in the officer corps, underrepresented populations. And so look at those opportunities that are available to you through ROTC as well.
And I will add a fourth thing out of these three things that you advise and recommend to kids. Be careful what you do with social media in your high school time.
Well, yeah, and in college too, right? That's a lesson that we are constantly reteaching our cadets here because, it's amazing, especially in the public and private sector, when you go out there to apply for a job, it is amazing how many employers will ask you to open up your social media sites so they can see them. And you got a choice. You can either say, nope, I'm not going to let you, at which point the interview is normally over, or you can say, okay, and open it up, and whatever you've got on your social media sites is there for everybody to see. And unfortunately, we've had some bad experiences where, there was some stuff on former cadets' social media sites that were inappropriate or offensive, and which led to that cadet not being selected for a job. Um, so yeah, that's a lesson you don't just learn in high school. You learn throughout your life that there are there are consequences for what you post. Like it or not, that's the world we live in today. And that's a great point, Andrea. I really do applaud you for talking about that because these kids today are out there. They're out there online. They're out there in social media.
Yeah.
They're taking advantage of it, as are their parents.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to be very, very careful with what gets posted because it could come back to haunt you.
Yeah, I mention it because I deal with teenagers in my house, and I'm constantly, almost every day, every time I can. It's like, be careful what you post. Stay forever and can damage and ruin the rest of your life when you try to get a job or when you try to apply for college.
No, absolutely. It's you're spot on. It's a lesson we reinforce again here in college as well. These young people come here out of high school, and those lessons are already imbued in them. They've got them, and we try to educate them about there are consequences associated with your actions. And unlike high school, you're now a legal adult. So what you put out there, you can't put under the guise of, well, I was just a minor, I didn't know better. No, no, no. You're a legal adult now, and there are consequences associated with your actions as a result.
Yeah, definitely. Well, General Joe Ramirez, gracias por tu tiempo. Thank you so much for being with us. And it was a pleasure. It was an honor to hear your story, to have you on the show. And please let us know what we can do to help to accomplish your goals. And because your goals definitely is also our goals here at the Texas Latino Conservatives.
Well, thank you. Muchas gracias por la oportunidad. And I hope that I'm here to help in any way I can. And I thank you for the time today. It's been an honor for me to talk to you.
Thank you so much and have a good rest of the day and good rest of the week. And we hope to see you soon, and we hope to meet you in person here in Houston when you come here to Houston from College Station.
Igualmente. Thank you very much.
Ciao, ciao.
Take
Gracias.
care, Andrea. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for watching us today in our TLC Live. It was delightful to have General Joe Ramirez. And I'll see you guys next Wednesday in another episode of TLC Live. For now, please go to our website, TexasLatinoConservatives.com, TexasLatinoConservatives.com, where not only offer a lot of information in English and Spanish, but please become a member and help us to help and spread the word here in the Texas Latino Conservatives Pack. Nos vemos el próximo miércoles.